hello there.
Chris, how do you know if your ex-girlfriend is over you?
How do you know if your ex-girlfriend's over you? Well, why don't I just make a video to show you? So without a doubt, the number one question that I get asked pretty much on a daily basis is, hey Chris, here's my situation. When you look at it, does it look like I have a chance of success here? Will I succeed? Now I'm going to tell you the same thing that I tell those men who ask me that. You have a chance, but just having a chance doesn't guarantee success. And the last thing you want to do is go after a girl or an ex that you think you have a chance with, but in her mind there's no way ever that she'll take you back. So I thought a lot about how I was going to structure this video, and pretty much I decided to structure it in a checklist format. Now, if you don't know what checklist format is, now you may be wondering, alright Chris, I totally get the checklist format thing, but what are we going to be covering? What's going on in this checklist that you're talking about? Good question. So the hardest thing for me to do is to give you a quantifiable list of this is exactly the type of girl that's going to be over you. This is the exact type of situation where your ex-girlfriend is never going to take you back. It just really doesn't work that way. Human beings are complex creatures. But here's what I've done. I have been doing this for several years. I've answered thousands of comments. Millions of people have come to my website. Okay? So over the course of all of these years of being in touch with the visitors there and seeing this amount of situations, I've started to find out some common correlations between the types of behaviors that women exhibit when they're completely over a man. So here's what I'm going to do for you. In checklist format, I'm going to tell you the 6 behaviors that a woman will exhibit if she's completely over you. Now, rather than listen to me ramble on with more setup or do more skits. Yay, did you say more skits? No. Let's just get right to it. Behavior number 1. Why are you ignoring me? Now, everyone who wants to get their ex-girlfriend back is always going to have a unique situation that they find themselves in. The one exception to that rule is if you want to get your ex-girlfriend back, just like everyone else out there, you're going to have to communicate with her. But what happens if you communicate with her via text messages or phone calls and she completely ignores every single one of your attempts? Well, that's not a good behavior. In fact, that's the type of behavior that is present in a woman who's completely over you. Now, if a lot of men who have this happen to them freak out and they think it's completely over, but the thing that you have to remember with all the behaviors on this checklist is that just her exhibiting one behavior isn't enough for her to be completely over you. I'd say she has to exhibit at least 75% of the behaviors on this list. So don't freak out yet. Let's hop on to number 2. Behavior number 2. So, how was work today?
It was good.
Really? Nothing interesting happened at all?
No.
Why are you acting like this?
Acting like what?
So, let's say that, for argument's sake, you send your ex-girlfriend a text message. Great, right? She responds to the text message, but her response isn't really in depth. In fact, it seems very uninterested. And this trend continues over and over and over again, and you don't know what to do. Well, that's bad behavior. Anytime your ex-girlfriend seems uninterested to whatever you're talking about, it's not good. Generally speaking, a woman who's into you is going to be interested in what you have to say. A woman who's not into you is not going to be interested in what you say.
I am so over you.
Ouch. It always hurts when a girl tells you that she's completely over you. No matter if she means it or not, it hurts. Now, the thing that I would really advise you to do here is take a look at her actions instead of her words. If her actions are saying something different than what she's actually saying, then she probably doesn't mean what she's saying. And that's where my actions versus words theory comes into play. Basically, you take a look at the person's actions instead of their words. If their actions say a completely different thing than their words, then the most likely explanation here is that she really doesn't mean what she says. Let me give you an example. If I were to say that I'm going to streak across the room right now, and instead I did this, I'm nervous, but I've never done this before, but here goes nothing. I can't do it. My actions clearly said that I was not streaking across the room. Thank God for that. So that's the lesson that I want you to take from this. If she tells you that she's over you, take it with a grain of salt and instead wait some time and look at what her actions are saying. So I heard you're dating a new guy.
Yeah, this is my new boyfriend.
It's never easy to watch your ex-girlfriend date someone else, especially if you're still in love with her. And it's a behavior that she will exhibit if she's over you. Now, don't let that upset you too much. Just because it's a behavior she exhibits doesn't mean she's completely over you. I've seen multiple cases where a guy has gotten his ex-girlfriend back when she's went on the rebound. It happens all the time. And remember what I said at the beginning of this checklist. 75% of the items have to be checked off on this list in order for me to personally say, yeah, she's worth giving up on. Oh, hello there. You just caught me working out some steam. I just talked to my ex-girlfriend and we got into a fight. Have you ever been in a relationship before where it seemed like every single time you talked to your girlfriend, you just got into a fight? I've been in one of these relationships, and let me tell you, it sucks. And it's the type of behavior that I think a lot of unsuccessful relationships have. Now, that doesn't mean that fighting isn't normal. Fighting is very normal. Every couple usually fights. But there's a difference between the intensity level of the fights and the consistency of them. Let me give you an example from my past. My first girlfriend ever, we literally got into a fight pretty much every single week we were dating. In fact, sometimes we got into fights every single day we were dating. We dated for a year. Our relationship was plagued with fights, and then after the breakup, which I initiated, just saying. That Chris Sider's so cool. Yeah, he's also full of himself. We got into a fight pretty much every single time that we talked after the breakup. So here's a general rule of thumb for you. If you and your ex-girlfriend can't get through a conversation without getting into a fight after the breakup, it's a pretty good indication that she's getting to the point where she's over you. Now, is she over you completely? Maybe not, but give it time. You know, speaking personally, I prefer to live in harmony instead of anger. Everything that I teach on my websites, Ex-Girlfriend Recovery and Ex-Boyfriend Recovery, culminate in this in-person interaction idea, basically moving you from point A, where you are right now, to point B in in-person interaction. Now, an in-person interaction is categorized as anything where you and your ex-girlfriend are in the same room or place together. But what if you can never advance that far? Well, I hate to break this to you, but it's kind of impossible to get your ex-girlfriend back if you aren't in the same room with her at some point during the reattraction phase. And it's also a huge behavior that an ex-girlfriend will exhibit if she's completely over you. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't hang out with people that I don't like. It's common sense. Hey, I just want to thank you for getting to the end of this video. I really appreciate you being a fan of my videos or my website. If you want to learn anything more about getting your ex-girlfriend back, please visit my website, www.exgirlfriendrecovery.com. You can find a link in the description below. Click on it. You'll find hundreds of articles there. I do my best to answer comments. If you're wondering about a situation you have and if you have a chance or what to do, what to say, just probably the best way to reach me right now is to comment in the YouTube videos, because I'm making an active effort to respond to every single one that I see. I'll see you later.